All right, listen, it's October, and by now teachers have finally figured out about your kid, and you're going to find out maybe there's a learning disability. Not the end of the world. Ben Schifrin, head of the Disabilities schools, right? It's not the end of the world when you hear that news, right?
I like to say it's the beginning of a great beginning rather than the end of the world.
Youngest kid, youngest that you can be diagnosed with
Usually
something.
3 or 4, but assessments, when you really take academic assessments, you really need the child to be about age 6 to get an accurate reading of what exactly is going on.
Is it tough to figure it out? By
Yes.
a teacher, you, the educator.
The educator in the classroom, the teacher will not necessarily give the assessment, but they will notice things going on in the classroom. The child has trouble following directions. The child can't sit in their seat. The child's handwriting or whatever is not what it should be. There are indications that you may want to look a little further.
Let me ask you this. What does a learning difference diagnosis really mean?
It really means that you learn differently, and we all learn differently. According to the Institute of Literacy, they're saying somewhere between 30% and 50% of the population have some form of a learning difference, and I don't call it a disability.
The population?
Because think about it. How many people do you know that you wouldn't ask directions for if your life depended on it? I know one of my friends, I would never ask directions. They have a directionality problem, but the difference is it's not interfering with their schoolwork. The only time a learning difference really takes on a life of its own is when a child is struggling in the classroom. And remember, it's not a disability. We call that to get the funds from the federal government in order to help with this. It's really a learning difference. What it means is your child just learns differently. They can go on to college. They can go on and succeed. Many people who have some form of a learning disability or a learning difference are our biggest models in the world. Think about them. Albert Einstein.
Right.
I mean, where would we be?
So you have a learning difference. It's almost like you're compensating, and then all of a sudden you take the training wheels off, and now what can you do with it?
Unbelievable. Remember, they're only learning difference for the institute we created called school. They're not learning difference for the real world. They get out, they see the world differently, they develop things, they're creative. Most CEOs in America, if you really check, it was one of the interesting statistics, big CEOs, okay, have some form of a learning difference.
Well, there you go.
There you go.
Some of the tips that you're giving, talk candidly.
You know what? You need to be upfront, and you as the parent are your child's advocate in the early years. It's critical. The school's not going to come to you and say, gee, we have a great plan, this is what we want to do. If your child is struggling in school, you, the parent, need to become the advocate for that child, go into school and figure out what's going on.
And the earlier the better.
That's common sense. The earlier we intervene, the better results we see.
Let me ask you this. Let's say you're a junior in high school and you get caught with some learning difference. Parents will be 50-50. They'll say, why didn't you catch it earlier? And then all of a sudden, hey, you know what? Thank goodness you caught it. Now we know why.
You know, there are many students, especially at Disabilities, that we don't see come through the door till 9th, 10th, 11th grade. Really? And these students are so bright because they've learned to beat the system. They've learned to work the system. They learn how to deal with teachers. They tend to have very good personalities and very good social skills. And boom, in 10th grade, they hit the wall. And we realize, my God, this child has really a problem, let's say, with working memory.
But isn't it finding the child's strength?
Absolutely, because wherever there is a difference, there is a strength. And good education, regardless of whether we're talking about learning differences or not, should focus on building children's strengths and young adult strengths, because that's what they need. That builds their confidence.
You're the best. Ben Schifrin.
It's great being here.
School. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.